In this video, we're going to be looking at the content property in relationship to the pseudo-element selector before and after, as well as how to use the various specified values. Now, as in all of my videos and all of my courses, I want to invite you to open up your Atom text editor as well as a browser, and we'll get started. First of all, let's go ahead and create a simple project. Mine is stored in Atom called My Website. I have a CSS folder, an images folder, a scripts, and a basic index HTML. What I want you to do with the index HTML open, type HTML, hit enter. This will obviously pre-populate a lot of the code for you. And then we're going to type an article, hit enter. We'll ignore the class value for the article at this time. We're going to type a p tag and hit enter. And we're just going to type some sample text. Typing some sample text. We'll go ahead and go back to our index HTML that I have open already. I'm going to refresh this and we have typing some sample text. Now, in order to use the content specifier, we're going to store this in our style CSS. And so that means inside of our head tags, we need to have a link. And we're going to reference the style by calling it style, because that's the name of my style sheet. I'm going to go over to my style CSS, and we're going to first use the P attribute, the P selector. And as we use the P selector, we're going to type double before and create our declaration block. In our declaration block, we're going to type content, and we're going to use the string syntax, which is double quotes, and I'm going to type text before the content with a dash, and then over here, I'm going to do a semicolon. Now, if I refresh this, you're going to see now text before the content. And what it's done is it's prepended by using the pseudo selector element before and put it before the text. To make this stand out a little bit more, I'm going to give this a font weight of bold. We'll save it, then we'll refresh our text, and you can see that now the text before this is in bold. The other one that you can use is the pseudo selector after. Again, you use the same syntax. Atom makes it very easy for us, and we'll type content because this is the property value we're going to use. Again, we're going to use the string syntax with the double quotes, and I'm going to type a space dash content after to signify. And again, for me, to make this stand out more, I'm just going to say font weight is bold. We'll save and refresh, and now we have the font weight showing up in bold. Now I have maximized this view a little bit. I'm going to bring it down just a little bit. There we go, to make it fit on the screen. The other things that we can do here is we can also use the URL syntax inside of the content. Let me give you an example. I'm going to go ahead and create another P paragraph. And by the way, this could be, you can use the pseudo-element selector of after and before with many different elements. You could use it with classes and so forth. And that's what we're going to do here real quick. I'm going to use it with a class. So I'm going to type P class, my class, and I'm going to type in bird island because I have an image already set aside in my images directory. If you don't have an image, you could go out and grab any image you want at this point. All right, so I'm going to type P before, because this is where I want my bird island image to show up. I'll say content URL. And I want you to remember here that you need to think about the path. This CSS file is here in this folder. My images are in the image folder. So I'm going to be referencing something over there. So I have to say dot dot to go back a directory. Then I say images, and then I can specify the particular file. Now, what I need to do is I need to grab this text. So I'm going to scroll this over a little bit so I can see it. I'm going to use the JPEG. And what you could do is you could right click on it, say rename, and just copy that text with a Control C, right? All right, so we'll go ahead and close that back out. I'm going to scroll this back over a little bit because I don't want it to take up all my space. And I'm just going to paste over this text. Now, at this point, I already have a P before here, and I have a P before there. Think again about the values, how they cascade, right? If our rule is correct, then this rule will overwrite that rule. Let's see. Well, it didn't. What are we missing? We're missing our double dots there. There we go. We'll refresh it again. And it overwrote it. So it overwrote with the image. We don't see text before anymore. We see only that. Now, I don't want, in this scenario, let's say I only want the image to show up on a particular content. Well, remember, I've already specified a class here, my class. So I'm going to copy that, go back over to the style. I'm going to say p dot, because you have to use the dot for classes, paste that in. And now this is only going to refer this content to that one p selector. And so the other one takes its precedence back, and the other one has the content. And there's the content, Bird Island. But notice here that content after is still specified. Well, what if I don't want it to be specified? Again, you say p dot my class colon after curly brackets. We're in the declaration block. Again, we're going to use the content. And at this point, we can use two possible values. Atom does an awesome job here of displaying the values that are possibly to be used. Okay, so we could use attribute, close quote, no open quote, so forth. What I want to use is none. And when I use none and save it, it's basically saying any content after this, make it disappear. So if we think about that, P class is referencing right here, right? I want it to disappear. Well, but I don't want this to disappear. What I have done here will cause only the bottom content after in bold to disappear. Let's go and refresh it and watch what happens. Now it's gone. So these are two examples of things that we can do using the pseudo classes, pseudo element selectors of before and after, and in relationship to the content property. Some other things that we can use here are the, we can use the attribute selector. So I'm going to go back again, and this time I'm going to create another P class, P attribute, or P element, excuse me. And inside of this, I'm going to type additional links, and I'm going to put in A anchor. I'm going to put https://www.google.com, and I'm going to say Google. Now, so far this is nothing new. This is everything that you've seen so far. Well, I refresh it. There's the P attribute again because I've told it to put that content before and content after. I have my text, additional links, right? But let's say that I want to grab this URL and somehow make it be displayed outside over the on the Google text. Well, what we can do, come down here, we're going to say A after, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to say content, and I'm going to put a quote with a bracket, excuse me, an open paren, and then I'm going to use the attribute text. Now the attribute text means that I can access any valid attribute name. The attribute name I want to access is the href. I'm going to come over here, put another open and close quote, and put the, let's see, put it like that. Now when I refresh it, what I expect this to do is it's going to put after my Google hyperlink here, because remember we're saying inside the text content of that tag element A, put this content. This attribute is referencing the href attribute, so it should post it in there. Let's go ahead and refresh it, and there it is. It's actually taken what's behind the scenes and made it visible. Some other things that you can do here. For example, say that I have some special quotes that I want to be put in quotes, right? So let's say we have another P attribute, and I'm going to use the span text. Whoops. Let me do it like this. Span. And let's see. There is nothing to fear but fear itself. And this is by, I don't remember, somebody famous. My mind has gone blank. You'll forgive me. All right, so we have this statement here, and it's in span text, right? Span tags. So if I refresh this, again, I have my text element before, I have my text element after, but one of the other nice things that you can do is you can tell your content to use certain values. So I'm going to say p span before content, and I'm going to say open quote. P span after content close quote. All right, we refresh that. What we expect to see is quotes to appear around this particular text. So refresh it, and there's our quotes, right? All right, one last thing we're going to demonstrate before we close this video, and that's using the increment functionality. The increment functionality gives you the ability to create in CSS an incrementer, and that incrementer you can use anywhere you want to. So what we're going to do is we're going to declare first up here on our P element. I'm going to use the declaration block again, and I'm going to call this my, well, the name of the property is counter increment. And this is where you're going to give it the name, the value of the counter increment that you're going to use elsewhere. So I'm going to call it my number. You could call it my incrementer. You could call it any number of things. Now, we want this increment to show up in front of all of the p text. All right, so what are some things we could do here? Well, let's see. We're going to use a counter method and then pass in my number. So I'm going to use, in this particular block right here, I'm going to take out all of that and leave a dash. And in front of this, I'm going to say counter, which is a CSS method, and we're going to count my number. Right? All right, so we did that. Let's come over here and refresh, and there's a counter. It says 1, 3, 4. Now 2 is here, but we are overriding that. So you can do some interesting things here. You can keep the image in place, and we're going to say counter my number. I'm going to have a quote, space, just like that, right? So I have on the my class, I have counter, my number, with a space, dash space, with URL referencing the images. I refresh that, and there it is. I have my counters in place. These are some of the many features you can do with the pseudo element selector before and after using the content properties and the counter increment properties and values.